Mary had a little lamb.
False. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Sure, it's that season. No, not Halloween. Election season. Are you scared yet? You should be. The House of Horrors is right around the corner, and it'll last far past Halloween. What's coming? The lunatics are in charge of the asylum. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, and Jim Jordan will be running the show. They'll wreck the economy, try to end Social Security to give Elon Musk a tax cut, destroy the FBI and Department of Justice for investigating Trump. They'll make America change sides in Ukraine to help Vladimir Putin win. Think they'll cut inflation, lower gas prices, help working Americans? Sorry. More chaos, more destruction, more violence, more Trump. That's the real terror the Republicans are promising. This horror movie has a dark ending, and no one gets out alive unless you vote them out.
It is scarier than Halloween election season, right? It is. It is. Halloween lasts, a weekend? Some people actually milk it. They milk it. They make it the whole month of October, But the scariest part of Halloween season is that it's in tandem with election season. And so, while the weather is cooler and it's a time of year that we all love because we get to gorge ourselves, just remember that the Republican donorship, the Republican, sycophants, the Republican corporate, the Republican polluters, the Republican, insurers, they are all gouging us. Gouging. And that ought to scare the bejesus out of you. But listen, we are celebrating, and we are also making a note that we are firmly inside election season. And while the weather is a little cooler, and while it's Halloween, this weekend, it is the second annual installment of the FSTV Scary Stories. Yes. So if you tune in to Free Speech TV today and tomorrow, you can catch this year's scariest story. Some of the hosts, Travis, are actually dressing up in their scariest costumes, which makes Travis a superhero. I don't know. But this is your chance. This is your chance to make a very special gift to support all of your treasured shows on Free Speech TV and all the stuff that happens behind the scenes to get these shows to you each and every day. So what we have here for the election/Halloween scary season is our frontline funders, Joe and Heidi in Colorado, Suzanne in Virginia, and Murray in New York over there. They have a special Halloween treat for you. It's not a trick, it's a treat. What they will do is they will match any donation that you make today or tomorrow by midnight to the tune of $10,000, right? So anything that you give today, any gift up to $10,000 will be matched by our frontline funders. So I'll let you get back to watching this show, but before you move on with the day and your brain, I engage. Just take a second and make a special Halloween contribution to Free Speech TV by texting to 44321, 44321, the letters FSTV, and we'll send you a secure link, or visit us at freespeech.org, or dial us right now at 877-378-8669.
And turn on that fan.
Turn on the fan, Gary.
Oh, Randy.
Ah.
Hey, sorry. I called yesterday. I guess you were having phone trouble.
We were. That got fixed today. Thank God. Thank God.
Okay. Well, I wanted to tell you something about what Joe Biden is doing, okay?
Okay.
I was in a boat yesterday, about 8 hours, 10 hours, and I've been in a boat every day for the last 7 or 8 days, 8 hours, 10 hours, working, unloading yachts from ships that are coming from all other countries where they build them, so rich people can buy these yachts. These yachts are like anywhere from $1 million to $20 million. And we figure we unloaded about 100 of them last week. Okay? They're all pre-sold.
Oh, my God.
The second thing is the water taxis There's like lines around the block trying to get on the water taxi to go to the vote show so people can look at buy-in votes.
Yeah.
So anybody who says we're in a recession or Joe Biden is doing a bad job is ignorant as hell.
Yeah, and, everything that I have been saying about the, inflationary effects on the economy, half of the effects are being caused
by greed.
Yes, by corporations and greed. And, the Democrats are the only people in the world that have anything, in mind to do about it. I shouldn't say in the world, because the European Union, the EU, just passed a windfall profits tax on corporations that are gouging people in the EU. The UK is considering passing their own windfall profits tax. Now, haven't I been telling this audience for
years? Yes,
that we need a windfall profits tax, and all of a sudden the gouging comes to an end. Why? Because it's no longer
profitable.
Right.
So, it's all about greed. These Republicans and these corporations, all they want to do is suck this country dry, pollute it, and the hell with it. They think they can take it with them.
I don't know what they think, but the idea that they are going for something like a mafioso, oligarchical, like the corporations can live.
Yeah, like Putin.
Exactly. But the corporations are now the people, and they've said as much.
Yeah, the corporations are people, my friend.
That's right, and they meant it. They meant it with their whole hearts, that people are too stupid to self-govern. People don't know what to do. They have no idea. If we left it in the hands of, our supporters, my God, we'd all be dead, right? Or if we left it in the hands of our supporters, my God, we'd all shoot each other or whatever. So let them do it, and make corporations the people.
Well, I sure hope Joe Biden can get that done before he leaves, because once he's gone, it's over.
Listen, we have a beautiful, unbelievable opportunity now to reelect the House as is, if not add a few seats, and to take the Senate. And if we added 2 senators, as I've been saying forever, then we could get rid of the filibuster. And if we could get rid of the filibuster, we could pass a windfall profits tax, and maybe even without one, we could pass it. And if we shoved it into a tax bill,
Randy, there's one more thing I got to tell you. I'm getting old and I forget. If I don't tell you right away, it'll go away. All right. My main source of income in life is a small commercial building that I inherited about 10 years ago. It allowed me to stop fishing and start being a landlord, and I'm a very nice landlord. I charge low rent. I don't give them increases, I take care of the building. But that took my hard work away from me when I inherited this building. Well, this building is old. It's 48 years old. It's in an opportunity zone, if you know what that is. I have a feeling you do know what an opportunity zone is. Mm-hmm. Okay. So all of a sudden, ever since Hurricane Ian, my insurance ran out on the 23rd of October. I cannot get windstorm insurance. I cannot get fire insurance. I cannot get any insurance other than liability insurance. Mm-hmm. So now I have to go uninsured, which, it saves me money, but it doesn't let me sleep at night.
Yeah.
And so this governor that we have, if you want to call him a governor, I call him a crook, this DeSantis that we have in Florida, he should make his number one concern straightening out this screwed up insurance industry that we have in Florida, where people like me, by no fault of our own, cannot even get insurance on our property.
Oh, he doesn't give a rat's ass about it.
No.
Listen, he had a special session 1, special session 2. What did he do? He used those special sessions to ban books. He used those special sessions to bully children.
Yeah, gays can't say gay.
Right. And attack Disney and the cruise industry.
Go after Disney. The most beautiful thing in the whole state.
Yes.
Ruin it.
So
long.
Listen, he knows about this insurance problem. Everyone in this state knows about this insurance problem. People just get written out of their insurance policies, and they get a notice in the mail. You're now uninsured. Good luck getting insurance from anybody, anywhere. Everybody's left the state. He knows about this. Don't you understand that this is the opportunity that big business has been looking for, to buy your building in the opportunity zone, to buy my house and rent it out?
all things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, check this out.
The economy bounced back in July, August, and September. The third quarter, the economy grew 2.6%. Bouncing back from those two prior quarters where you had the economy actually shrinking here. If it weren't for a little bit of a drag from housing, those numbers would have been even stronger. So looking at what was fueling this, consumer spending and exports, although consumer spending is starting to show some signs of weakness, but still very good in that third quarter. And then housing was a little bit of the drag. Let's talk about the job market, because we also got to look at layoffs in the most recent week. Up a tiny bit, but still very low. 217,000 first-time jobless claims. I mean, these are pre-pandemic kinds of levels, and the trend there is what's really important. So this does not show yet that companies are laying people off in big numbers as the Fed is raising interest rates. In fact, the job market's still pretty strong. 3.8 million jobs have been created this year. Everyone's waiting for that tipping point when higher interest rates and these concerns about a potential recession in the future start to drag on company hiring plans. In terms of what this means about a recession, I mean, it's less likely that you're in a recession now when you have a number like this. 2.6% economic growth is not recessionary at all. What we're talking about now are these headwinds in the future. What happens in the next 12 to 18 months? That's where you're seeing all of these forecasts for trouble ahead. But for at least right now, you have a consumer that remains pretty resilient, a job market that is still robust, and in terms of economic growth, the third quarter growth bounced back.
Okay, so we have no recession, okay? We don't have recession. Technically, you could say that the last two quarters showed some shrinkage. You know, you could say, I was in the pool, you know, but there was some shrinkage. 0.6%, 0.6% of shrinkage is basically what happens when you go in the pool. Okay, guys know this. So, and girls who love them know that. But it's gone. We don't have it anymore. We had growth, almost 3% growth. 2.6% growth is not a recession. So, and consumer spending is holding steady even in the face of this massive gouging that's going on. And it is massive gouging. The gouging industries, the industries that are doing it to us, big ag, oil and gas, big pharma, okay? Their profits are through the roof. You know, I'm looking at the profit report from Valero Energy, for those of you out west, $500 billion. I mean, you're talking about, these windfall profits. You're talking about percentages that year to year, year over year are just obscene. They're incredible. And we're paying more for every damn thing because they know we have to, because there's no competition in the marketplace. That's why you want a couple of things to go on, okay? You want a windfall profits tax, meaning if we look at your profits year over year, and all of a sudden there's this spike in what you're taking in, not revenues, but profits. Profits, that's after labor. Profits, that's after costs, right? And if your profits are astronomically different and much, much higher than they were regularly before the gouging, then we know you're gouging, and you pay a windfall profits tax, taking the air out of the sail of being greedy, taking the point of being greedy, the profitability of being greedy out of being greedy. And we know that's what's happening. We know it is. And the Republicans have no interest in doing anything to halt it, to stop it, to get it under control for you, for me. They couldn't care less. Why? Because the gouging industries are the industries that are their donor base. That's their donor class. That's who gives the kind of money that the Republican Party is spending. Look, they spent $1 billion on these Senate races. $1 billion has to come from somewhere. And what's it for? It's for these stupid ads that you see all over the place, okay? It's for these dumb ads with, Blake Masters being a psycho and shooting weapons and guns. By the way, there's another study today that's out. This is one of a spate of studies. It's not the only study. This is not an isolated conclusion. It's not in a silo. It's a very common result that you get when you look at state policies nationwide. What you find is that in red states, swear to God, in red states, people die so much younger and with so much frequency over blue states. The research consistently shows that social and economic policies are life or death matters for working class Americans. And now if you're going to add to it the fact that women can, just die in childbirth, or women can just die from ectopic pregnancies, or women could just die because of sepsis, because they've been forced to carry a dead fetus until it expels itself on its own without the assistance of a DNC to help clean out. Right? I mean, it's very graphic, yes. But now apparently we're going to have to call our congressmen to find out whether or not we could have a DNC. But when you look at the policies that are perpetrated upon working people in red states, what you see is that in red states, people die in more larger numbers and much, much younger than in blue states. Part of it has to do with the guns. Yeah, it does. Has to do with the guns and the suicide rates in states where guns are just awash, where guns are everywhere. And also air pollution and asthma and other respiratory problems that increase your chances of dying. And also pay, like minimum wage pay, overtime pay, in places where wages are, keeping up with inflation, or in places where wages are higher versus places where wages are low, people have more money to actually go see a doctor. In fact, in red states, people have hard times even finding doctors. There are like one OBGYN in Fulton County, Georgia. No, I shouldn't say Fulton County because that's a city. But in rural places in Georgia, sometimes there's like one OBGYN. Hospitals are closing. Level 1 trauma centers are closing. You lost like 6 hospitals in the state of Georgia, and it's all because they wouldn't expand Medicaid. And so these places that were serving, lower income populations had to close. So, yes, people die more often in red states and younger in red states than they do in blue states, okay? So this must be why they want to force us into birthing as many babies. We got to keep up with the clip of people that are dying, The women folk have to have babies now, like on the conveyor belt to keep up with all the people that their policies are killing unnecessarily. We're talking about... I swear to, lack of hospitals, lack of OBGYNs, a proliferation of guns. It increases the number of suicides. Pollution increases the number of people who can't breathe, have asthma, get cancers, things like that, right? Dumping in the water. I mean, look at all these damn. What do you think? I don't see commercials. Of course, I see the commercials. You see all the commercials for the people that drank benzene in the 80s and the 90s at Camp Lejeune, right? So the reason why those people, got these weird cancers and couldn't sue and couldn't do anything is because North Carolina had a law that prevented people from suing Camp Lejeune. Well, the Democrats were able to pass and Joe Biden signed legislation that allowed you to sue and get compensated for drinking benzene for 30 years.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Voters don't like getting cheated, and they don't like getting lied to. And that's what's happening right now. They're getting price gouged, getting overcharged at the grocery store, at the pump for so many goods and services. And then corporations are telling them, oh, it's a supply chain issue. Oh, it's not our fault. But the proof's in the pudding. About half of what we're seeing in corporate profit margins right now is coming from those boosts to the bottom line. So about half of the inflationary effect is coming from corporate profit margins, and the other half is the added cost of input or the added cost of labor. And so I think Americans sense this. They're filling up at the pump and seeing prices go up and down. We have CEOs saying on earnings calls, CEOs of multinational global corporations saying on earnings calls things like, quote, a little bit of inflation is good because it lets them raise their prices. And so I think consumers feel that and they're frustrated about it. And they want to have a party. They want to have leaders who will be straight shooters about what's going on and have the courage to stand up to powerful corporate interests to fight back. And I've had a lot of conversations like that at the doors in the last couple of days. I was out knocking today.
Yeah, I mean, Katie Porter, obviously, her and her whiteboard are devastating to, corporate, greed mongers. Devastating. I'm going to play a little bit of her committee hearing that she had the other day, where she was interviewing an economist. He was under oath, and she showed him a chart of corporate profits, the bottom line, and then broke out the cost of labor, the cost of raw goods that go into making their product, whatever it is, and then the bottom line profits. And 50% of the cost that you're paying, that's inflationary at the pump, is coming from their desire to make more profit and nothing else.
According to this chart, what is the biggest driver of inflation during the pandemic? The blue is the dark blue is the recent period.
It would be corporate profits.
And what is that percentage?
It is 54%, and that number does stay that level of high if you update that number to more recent numbers as well.
So over half of the increased prices people are paying are coming from increases in corporate profits.
Yes, the unit price index is reflected in corporate profits as opposed to other costs.
What do your colleagues say when you make these points? Do you make them in a way that it seems translatable to the campaign arena? Or do your colleagues use some of these points the way you describe them?
Well, I certainly hope so, because, look, voters want to hear about it. They're going to the grocery store. I'm going to the grocery store.
Me too.
We're filling up our gas tanks. We're trying to purchase things. So it's on voters' minds, and you just need to tackle it straight up and have the courage to stand up to big corporations and tell the truth. They are cheating us, and we're all paying the price. Our overall economy is paying the price. Nobody more so, by the way, than our seniors who are on fixed incomes and retirees, and that's who I was canvassing out today. About 1 in 4 of the voters in my district is over the age of 65, and they want to see someone who will protect Social Security and Medicare and stand up to corporations who are making it hard for them to take care of themselves in their later years.
Yes, and let me tell you something right here, right now. The Republican Party is not interested in helping you in your later years, in your early years. That's why I just showed you a study that actually says that in red states, because of the policies in red states that have to do with the proliferation of guns, that have to do with the pollution, with dumping, with coal ash, with poisoning of your water, and also wages, low wages, which all contribute to early death in younger people. America has the youngest people. We have the largest pool of young people dying earlier than of any other first world nation, which is why the Republicans want us to be a third world nation, so that we don't get compared to first world rich nations anymore, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what their real reason is, except to say that they have policies that cause you to die earlier. So now we're looking at people who are making it to their later years, okay, people over the age of 65. And they're being squeezed as well. They're being, priced out of, being able to go play bingo once a week. They're being priced out of being able to fill their gas tanks up. They're being priced out of being able to eat more than one meal a day because they're on fixed incomes. And what's the Republican solution? Take away the Social Security altogether and end Medicare, or increase the eligibility age, or decrease the amount of benefits, or make people pay more out of their pocket. Here we have a president, just so you know. This is the very first time, and I know this because, I take care of my mother. I am my mother's power of attorney. I am my mother's caregiver. I am my mother's keeper, okay? I am. And for the very first time in forever, I don't even remember this happening since she's been 65. And, she's 92 right now. So there's been a lot of years here that every time they got a cost of living increase in the Social Security benefit in the check, they raised the cost of Medicare's premiums. So it was always a wash, right? So you might get more in Social Security, but Medicare costs more to buy into. Well, this is the first time that the cost of living increase is going to be about 8.7%. You can see it next year in January, okay? And the premium for Medicare has also come down because of this inflation that we're involved in here at the hands of the corporate gougers. That is costing everybody. Everybody. So you would want to see people in charge that understand this relationship between working Americans, young Americans, senior Americans, and corporate gougers and say, hey, look, we're looking at your profits over a period of time. And we're seeing that you're either, doubling your net income, and that's resulting in a 58% increase in your profits that we haven't seen in your profits over a period of 5 years. We've never seen a 58% increase in your profits. That is the case with some of the oil and gas companies, Shell, which is not an American company, just so you know, it's Royal Dutch Shell, okay? So Shell Oil Company is going to buy back $4 billion worth of its own shares so it can increase, the payouts to people who own shares, 15%, because they just posted a gigantic quarterly profit, okay? So this is an oil company. And so I wanted to do it without, people saying, leave them alone. They're an American company. No, they're not an American company. Okay, so they are a UK company, and they posted a net income of $9.45 billion in the third quarter, which was double the $4.1 billion that it recorded a year ago. The profit on that was $30 billion. Which is 58% more than they showed in profit for 2021. That's $11 billion a quarter they're making, okay? The EU, the European Union, looked at that and said, they qualify for a windfall oil and gas profits tax, okay? Because in the EU, they're trying to tame the out-of-control costs for oil and gas because it's winter time there and people have to heat their homes. And, and now the UK is looking at doing it too.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, this here is my imaginary boyfriend, Sheldon Whitehouse, okay? And this is like just a conversation that he's having with me.
A Republican Party that is funded by the fossil fuel industry is never going to take on fuel costs in a serious way. A Republican Party that is getting huge secret money from pharma is never going to help lower drug costs. And we've seen them dump $2 trillion in high-end tax relief for billionaires and big corporations. So the idea that you can trust them with the problems to solve the problems that they point out, I think is pretty well ludicrous in terms of what the record shows. I think it's ought to be pretty clear that one of the biggest threats to democracy, if not the biggest threat to democracy, is the unlimited anonymous money that has just sluiced into our politics like a tsunami of slime, and what that is doing to the ability of ordinary voters to be heard. Again, there are probably only 4, 5, 6 interests that are behind that $1 billion in spending for Republican Senate candidates.
Oh, my God.
And they will have demands of Mitch McConnell. And he's not going to listen to voters. He's going to listen to people who are willing to put $1 billion on the line to push his candidates forward.
You don't give somebody, you don't put $1 billion, 4 or 5 corporate titans, 4 or 5 interests, let's say, do not put $1 billion into electing crazy wackadoodle senators like Herschel Walker or Blake Masters or election deniers of any sort or any kind. They don't put all this money on the line and then say, we don't want anything for it. We're just doing it out of the goodness of our hearts. No. No. And we are being gouged, and we know we're being gouged, and we know we're being cheated, and we know we're being lied to, and we know we're suffering. And I'm telling you right now, they don't have one single idea, the Republicans do not, to do anything on the cost of these things that we need to live, like a tank of gas, like eggs, like bread, like milk. Okay? It's Big Ag that's gouging us, and they are the GOP interest that threw part of that $1 billion into selecting a few senators, okay? Oil and gas, they're part of the $1 billion that went into selecting wackadoodles so that, they have the least capable of serious governing, at the helm, in charge of the legislation, in charge of the taxation, in charge of the Ways and Means Committee, in charge of, the Commerce Committee, in charge of the FTC, etc. Okay? And oil and gas, okay? Big pharma, oil and gas, and ag. That's who's doing this. That's who's picking senators, House members, secretaries of state, governors. That's who's doing it. Now, Sheldon Whitehouse is on TV. Usually he and I keep our talks, off the TV. But he's on the TV because he has a book that he just wrote called The Scheme. And it's all about this dark money. It's all about how this happened to us.
I actually ordered The Scheme, and I just want to say that I love that we opened up with Porter in the third segment and now Whitehouse in this segment, because they are absolutely the best that we have to offer in the Senate, and they need more exposure. They are amazing.
Well, Katie is in the House, but honestly...
House, yeah, you're right.
So I honestly, Elizabeth Warren is amazing on this issue in the Senate for us, okay? We have some really fine senators on our side. I can't think of one senator on their side that I would describe as even mildly interested in solving any of our problems. Not even mildly interested, not even mildly, cognizant of. You think Marco Rubio or Rick Scott from Florida are interested in anything that's going on in Florida with regard to Gary's beef with the homeowners insurance crisis that's going on here, or with regard to the gouging? Or no, Marco Rubio doesn't give a damn. Rick Scott wants to privatize Medicare. That's what he knows how to steal the best, because Rick Scott was the CEO of a giant hospital chain that's still in operation here in Florida, the HCA Columbia chain. And they were responsible for the biggest Medicare fraud in the history of the program known as Medicare. And Rick Scott hasn't changed his stripes because he's a senator. No, he's still literally the handmaid of big insurance, of big hospitals, of big billing, of fraudulent billing, of lining his pockets with our healthcare dollars. It's what he does. And that's why his plan is the plan. He's in charge of the Senate Re-elect Committee, right? And he's the one that's attracting all of this corporate money, right? And the reason why they're so willing to put it up to the tune of $1 billion to pick a couple of senators is because they want to gouge you. They want to cheat you. They want to lie to you. They want to privatize Medicare. They want to make what was once called fraud legit. It's the whole name of the game with them. They don't think about it. Has the Republican Party, for those of you who are thinking maybe I'll vote Republican, I think, John, if you're in Pennsylvania, I heard some of the focus group people saying, well, I was undecided, but now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to vote for Oz because I don't think Fetterman is up for the job. Are you kidding me? His character is firmly intact. His ability to solve problems is firmly intact. Why? Because he's not slick, and he couldn't lie as fast as Oz did. Oz was talking so fast on that stage on purpose, so that he could, beguile John Fetterman, who has an auditory processing issue, and maybe he even has a processing issue with words. I mean, it's not uncommon after a freaking stroke. Doesn't mean that you can't be a senator, okay? Fetterman is a better bet for, decent policy decisions than Herschel Walker, than Rick Scott, who's using the seat to steal, than Marco Rubio, who's never told the truth one day in his life, who's now bootlicking Donald Trump, who's going to, go show up and endorse Rubio. He's going to come here to Florida. Now, he's leaving out Ron DeSantis from this big, Votapalooza thing he's doing. Yeah, Trump and DeSantis are fighting amongst themselves. Why? Because DeSantis actually went out on his own and endorsed a candidate. Why a Florida governor's endorsement is persuasive in Colorado, I have no earthly idea. Why a man who killed 82,000 of his fellow Floridians by denying that COVID was a thing deserves to be taken seriously in Colorado, I have no idea. But so DeSantis endorsed this guy named O'Day, I don't know, in Colorado. And Trump thinks O'Day is stupid. He doesn't like O'Day because O'Day is not an election denier. And so now Trump is fighting with DeSantis and isn't going to let DeSantis come to his big Trump rally that Trump is coming here to have for little Marco. And when you think about little Marco now benefiting from Trump, it's hysterical because Marco told you he was a liar. He told you he was you couldn't respect him. You couldn't believe a word he said. Ted Cruz too. But so anyway, there's that. But they don't have one single solitary idea in their head that they have presented to you to bring down the cost of anything, do they? No. They don't. You know why? They don't intend to even work on the issue. You know what their Congress is going to look like. We're gonna be like investigating Hunter Biden, as if that's going to bring down the price of a loaf of bread, or that's going to bring down the price of gas, or that's going to bring down the price of pharmaceutical, and they will repeal everything that, just like they did with the ACA, we're going to repeal and replace. They have no replacement for the Inflation Reduction Act, which did lower the cost of prescription drugs for the Medicare program to save seniors and Medicare money. They're not interested in any of that. They don't have any ideas for that. That's just a gimme. That's just a fact. And it's been like this since Citizens United, where corporations were declared people. People are disposable, dispensable. They're people. Soylent Green. Corporations are we the people.
Is this corruption? Is this criminal? Explain it.
Well, it's for sure corruption, as the founding fathers would have defined that term. I first noticed it when I was looking at why Republicans had all evaporated on climate change. When I got to the Senate, there were Republicans working on climate change. As soon as Citizens United was decided, as soon as the dark money flowed in huge denominations after that decision, they all stopped. You couldn't get a Republican near a climate bill. And so I began to look at that apparatus that was pushing climate denial, that dark money apparatus. And then I began to see that it's a lot of the same groups that are backing the Republicans, just like we described in the $1 billion in this election for Republican Senate candidates. And then as I looked at the Supreme Court, I began to see the same groups showing up there in the effort to pack the court, in the effort to make sure that Garland did not get on the court and that Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Barrett did get on the court.
Honestly, the biggest threat to democracy is corporate greed. It's the money. It's always been the money. That's the problem.
Mary had a little man. We believe that all men are created
equal to the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
To be honest, doing that debate wasn't exactly easy. You know. Knew it wasn't going to be easy after, having a stroke after 5 months. In fact, in fact, I don't think that's ever been done before in American political history before, actually. After that stroke, I got knocked down, but I got back up.
People do love him, and why shouldn't they? This is a man who has demonstrated with his entire life, not just a campaign season, not just a political career season. No, his entire life has been dedicated to improving his state of Pennsylvania, to making life better, to educating people who missed out on a chance to finish high school. Hello, that would be me. He actually used his Harvard degree to become, I mean, he comes from a family of insurance brokers, okay? He could have gone right into daddy's insurance business and called it a life and done very well and, ran as a rich guy. That isn't who he is. That's not his principles. It's not his character. It's not his work ethic. It's not anything about John Fetterman. And we spent a good chunk of yesterday explaining to you who he is and what he believes is the right thing to do when you have and others do not. You give them the tools so that they can try and have. Just because you were born that way doesn't mean, that other people were too. And so you try and, help people grab their opportunity. That's who he is. I want to show you what Tucker Carlson had to say about Fetterman last night.
It's not about the person, it's about the party. It's not about the individual, it's about the group. And to prove it, they can even run mentally defective candidates who can barely speak and not only expect them to win, but expect you to accept the outcome no matter how transparently absurd it is. On November 9th, they'll be telling you that John Fetterman got 81 million votes in Pennsylvania, and they'll threaten to put you in jail if you don't believe it. Why wouldn't they do that? They work with Joe Biden.
I mean, this is like real bottom-feeding stuff. This is real aggression. This is real ugly. It's real low. It's the spit on the belly of a snake to kick a guy who literally showed you that 5 months after a stroke, he would show up and debate a snake oil, a slick salesman like Mehmet Oz and do the absolute best he could, which was better than Herschel Walker, which is better than Marco Rubio, which is better than Ralph Norman, which is better than Blake Masters. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, these guys this man, Fetterman, he had half his brain literally tied behind his back because it's repairing itself and still did better than most of their candidates will ever do. And he decided to call him mentally defective. Mentally defective. All right, let's see who's mentally defective, shall we? Okay, one moment, please. Here we go.
And then, of course, they voted 6, 7, 8 times, as much as they could in the local area. Some of the people went back, I guess, they said 28 times in one day to vote at different places with, numerous votes. But they can't put in 1,000 because it wouldn't be it wouldn't look right. They're very smart. They go in with 5 votes, 6 votes, 7 votes, and then they go to another one. But it adds up to millions of votes.
Who's mentally defective? The man that just sat on Dinesh D'Souza's, whatever that platform is, and accused Americans of voting 28 times each to the point where it added up to millions and millions of votes. Is that a mentally sound accusation to make after 60 lawsuits failed to demonstrate any evidence that that happened anywhere at any time during the 2020 election? Is that demonstrably insane? Is that mentally defective thinking because you cannot accept that you lost to Joe Biden? He can't. So who's the mental defective? Who's the one without principles, character, or values? Who's the mental defective? Here's Republican Ralph Norman from South Carolina.
We're going to subpoena as many people as we can. We're going to hopefully have consequences, starting with Mayorkas, Ray with the FBI. I mean, a whole host of things. The whole administration is a rogue administration. And I guess we all know Joe Biden is not running this country. There is a cabal of unelected elitists who are running this country. Probably Barack Obama is involved, probably Eric Holder, but who knows? We know it's not Biden.
Wow. Biden is not really president. It's a cabal of elitists that are really this is a sitting Republican House member from South Carolina. Okay, he really does hold a position of honor in the United States House of Representatives. I'll tell you who the cabal is. I think we've spent the entire day here telling you who the cabal is. It's big ag, it's big oil, it's big gas, and it's, big pharma. That's who the cabal is. That's who's running this country. That's who's lining that man's pockets, okay? And there's not one single solitary person on any of these platforms with any principles, with any values, with any care for the American people enough to say that to him. Enough to say, but sir, I just looked at, opensecrets.org, and I can see who's giving to your candidate, who's giving to your office. I could see who your donors are. I saw that you had a fundraising breakfast this morning at Charlie Palmer's, and then you had a fundraising lunch, and then you had a fundraising brunch, and then you had a fundraising dinner, and then you had fundraising cocktail parties afterwards, and everybody that attended had to give you, $50,000 to even be in the same room with you in order to influence your vote. And it was big ag, big pharma, big oil, big business. How are you saying that there's a cabal of elitists and you don't know who they are? They're obviously greasing you. Not one. Okay, here's Blake Masters. Okay, who's the mental defective here? This is Blake Masters being read out by Donald Trump for not being a strong election denier like Ms. Carrie Lake is, right?
If you want to get across the line, you got to go stronger in that one thing, because that was the one thing you had a lot of complaints about. Look at Carrie. Carrie's winning with very little money, and if they say, how is your family? She says the election was rigged and stolen. You'll lose if you go soft. You're going to lose that base.
You're going to lose that base if you don't start denying that the election was free and fair. You're going to lose your base. You're going to lose the election if you don't lie like Carrie Lake does. Look at Carrie Lake. I mean, you can't talk to her about the sun came up. She'll say the sun came up over a day when the election was stolen, right? You need to be more like her. You need to be more of a liar. You need to be more disingenuous. You need to cheat the people, lie to the people, bamboozle the people, sell the people on an idea that something that didn't happen actually happened. Or you're going to lose the base. Okay. Who's mentally defective in this scenario? Blake Masters, Donald Trump, or John Fetterman? Okay. Here's Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio, everybody.
Every time I get asked about the January 6th committee, which is a joke, a kangaroo court, a joke. I say, listen, I'll pay attention to that when they have a committee on the riots of 2020. Where's the committee on the riots of 2020? Where's that committee? Where's the committee to examine how many people were incentivized to go out and torch police cars after the now Vice President of the United States, known as the border czar, Kamala Harris, after she was raising money to bail people out of jail?
Okay, so 17,000 people were arrested in the 2020 summer Black Lives Matter protests. Most of them were arrested for curfew violations. But I did tell you that there were 300 people who were arrested and prosecuted for felonies like arson. What is he talking about? Why do they lie like that?
Randy at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, we're just trying to figure out who are the mental defectives in politics.
They're scared to death of Herschel Walker, because if Herschel Walker becomes a Republican, maybe every other young child in America of color might want to be a Republican. That's what they're trying to do. Don't let them get away with it. TeamHerschel.com. I want the biggest night for the Herschel Walker campaign to be tonight.
Lindsey Graham, who sold his soul to Donald Trump, is now telling you that Herschel Walker needs to be a senator because he's going to send a message to young black children to be a Republican. This man should have nothing to do with children. This man is dangerous. This man is mentally defective. Herschel Walker is a violent dude. Herschel Walker is a guy who played Russian roulette with himself. He's a guy who threatened to go to war with the police with guns. He's a guy who held a gun to his ex-wife's head. He's a guy who his current son who is a conservative as well, says they had to move 6 times to get away from Herschel Walker's threats of violence. And the kid's only 20 years old. So, this happened in modern history. You had another woman yesterday. I'm not even going to bore you with the story because I'm sure everybody drilled it into your head that another woman came forward yesterday. And yes, she has receipts. Yes, she has evidence. She has a hotel receipt. She has cards from him where he signed it with an H, which she says he never does. Just showing him to be a lying sack of dung, a real garbagey human being. And Lindsey Graham is literally playing the race card for Herschel Walker, who's running against another black man. Okay, it makes no sense. But it was a fundraising effort last night on the Fox News, and they did it because they pulled out Lindsey Graham and said, you're going to appear with Herschel, because this story came out about this second woman who was driven by Herschel Walker under duress to an abortion clinic in Dallas. And he sat in the parking lot and made sure she had the abortion, then sat in the parking lot for hours until she was ready to be discharged, and then took her to the drugstore to buy the prescribed, items post-abortion, and then dropped her at her house, took her home, and dumped her off. That's who Lindsey Graham, that's an evangelical example. This is the guy. This is him. This is the one. This is the... who is mentally defective here? John Fetterman, whose principles haven't changed. His way of approaching government isn't going to change because his character is intact, because obviously his values are preserved. Obviously his work ethic is solid. And they're going to sit on that same channel with Herschel Walker and Lindsey Graham 40 minutes after Tucker Carlson says John Fetterman is a mental defective. That is really rich. That's just beautiful. I've never seen so much lying in, it used to be, it didn't happen unless it was on the TV. I used to say that all the time because I was in radio. And I used to, tell people about, stuff that was going on. And they go, how come I don't know that? I didn't see it on the TV. It's always, I watched it on the TV. That's how I know it happened. And I used to make a joke. I used to say, well, I'm in radio. And I know it didn't happen unless you saw it on the TV. But now everything that happens on the TV is bull crap. Everything. It's just full of holes. It's Swiss cheese news. It's bizarre. And it's dangerous, and it's misinformation and disinformation, which is even worse. Saying COVID is a hoax, saying that the president's phone calls were perfect when clearly they showed him committing acts of extortion twice. God doesn't know very many tricks, but we heard him extorting, the Secretary of State of Georgia. We heard him extorting the governor of Georgia with their lawyers on the phone. He just believed he could get away with it. And then the same thing with, Ukraine, which is now invaded by Russia. It's who's the mental defective in this scenario?
I was just showing you line 1 might be interesting before the break. No, if you'd like.
I'm sorry.
Well, I wasn't really trying to get verbal on air. I was just putting up a number 1 line.
Oh,
one,
I thought you were asking me for a minute.
No, not at all. Not at all. I usually like to crowbar uncomfortably my talking, and this time I was just trying to subtly just tell you line 1 might be interesting.
All right. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Listening to your rant about Herschel Walker. Where did you get the proof? A hearsay is a hearsay, and he's unfit to be the senator.
His son said so.
Well, let me just go ahead. Well, so that
his ex-wife said that he held a gun to her head and threatened to blow her brains out on national television. So
okay, let's go with that. I'm okay. But what about John Fetterman? He was an embarrassment to the Democratic Party the other night.
No, he wasn't.
Really was. the hell he wasn't.
That
He
man,
didn't answer
that
questions.
man,
That man is an idiot.
No, he's not an idiot. He had a stroke 5 months ago.
Well, what is he doing running for senator when he can't even articulate what he's trying to say? He's unfit to do this.
So,
Maybe
do you remember when Donald Trump had a stroke live on the TV and he couldn't speak? Do you remember that?
Well, yes, I do. But he
so
came back.
Why did you? So did Fetterman. Fetterman came back. He's fine. His doctor
He's
said
not fine.
he is
Give me
fine.
A break, lady.
Wait a minute. So you think
No.
you think that somebody who has a temporary disability, even if it's a permanent disability, like I don't know, Greg Abbott, he's in a wheelchair. You think somehow that makes them unfit to serve?
No. I do not in a wheelchair.
So why
is
it if
not functioning?
His brain functions fine? He just cannot, speak
Lady,
as
his brain didn't function the other night.
Yeah, it did.
No, madam. Well, when they were talking about what would you do to raise the income in Pennsylvania, Oz gave a whole.
He talked about the minimum wage.
And then what happened? He said, well, you didn't answer the question.
Yeah, he did.
No, he did not.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. What was Dr. Oz's answer when Dr. Oz was asked, why did you flip on fracking? Because Dr. Oz was against fracking. What was his answer about what changed his mind? But you do remember that Fetterman couldn't answer that question to your satisfaction. But you don't remember that Dr. Oz said some fancy kind of a speed answer and then said, and I'd like to export all of our energy to Ukraine. You don't remember that?
I don't recall.
Isn't that interesting? So Dr. Oz's answer about fracking was worse in substance than John Fetterman's, which was, I'm for fracking. I think energy independence is important to Pennsylvania, but he was halting in his speech, okay? But he was clear that he was for fracking. But when they asked Oz about fracking and his moratorium on fracking and how he changed his mind, he said, I'd like to do it and export it.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. All right, everybody. Happy Halloween. We are doing a quick 2-day fundraiser for Free Speech TV so that you can support everything that goes on behind the scenes in order to get the shows that you watch each and every day, whether you love us or hate us, on the air for you on Apple TV, on Roku, on Sling, on Dish, on DirecTV, right? And it does take a team of people who work for a not-for-profit corporation called Free Speech TV. And so it is completely viewer-funded. We don't take any corporate dollars or political money. And therefore, we depend on you, our loyal viewers. So please do make a donation and know that our frontline funders today, we have Murray in New York, Joe and Heidi in Colorado, and Suzanne in Virginia, who will match everything that you do today up to $10,000. So if you gave $100, they would match it and make it $200, and so on and so on. All you need to do is text 44321, put in the letters FSTV, and we will send you a secure link, and you can donate just like that from your phone. Or if you want to go online, freespeech.org will get you where you need to go. Or you can call us at 877-378-8669. And a happy, peppy person in Denver, Colorado will be happy to take your call. Now, for my MAGA friend who did not hear or notice that Dr. Oz also flipped on fracking, okay? Also flipped because he's from Turkey, okay? He's a citizen of Turkey. He doesn't give a damn about Pennsylvania. He doesn't even live in Pennsylvania. This is you talk about, somebody with no principles and somebody with no character and somebody with weak ethics. But he was just a very slick salesman, and it went right past you.
You wrote a column in 2014 calling for no fracking pending health study results. But in a video posted on social media in March, you said, quote, natural gas guarantees high-paying skilled jobs right here in Pennsylvania, so back off Biden give us freedom to frack. Mr. Oz, please explain that changing position. 60 seconds.
I've been very consistent. Fracking has been demonstrated. It's a very old technology to be safe.
Very old.
It is a lifeline for this Commonwealth to be able to build wealth, similar to what they've been able to achieve in other states. For that reason, I strongly support fracking, drilling, the piping of that natural gas. In fact, I'd build a facility even in Philadelphia so we can export it to our allies and help them, the ones that are struggling now in Eastern and Western Europe because of the Ukrainian war.
So Dr. Oz's plan is to export our natural gas, our oil from fracking. That's his plan. But because he's slick and because he didn't stutter and because he wasn't halting and because he somehow was able to smoothly tell you he wants to take our resources and export them, even though he had flipped on fracking, said he wasn't for fracking, now he is. Same question that Fetterman had a halting answer to. Okay, you didn't notice. You didn't notice. That's so sad. Also, I wonder if you noticed that Dr. Oz lied about making a profit off of scam supplements that don't work. I wonder if you noticed that. This from the debate.
Did you or your company make a profit from promoting those products? You have 30 seconds.
I never sold weight loss products as described in those commercials.
As described.
It's a television show, like this is a television show, so people can run commercials on the shows, and that's a perfectly appropriate and very transparent process. I ruffled a lot of feathers on my show because I told people the truth, and
You told people the truth, did you?
You may think magic is make-believe, but this little bean has scientists saying they found the magic weight loss cure for every body type. It's green coffee beans. And when turned into a supplement, this miracle pill can burn fat fast.
Visit DrOz.com. You see that right here? DrOz.com.
Anyone who wants to lose weight.
For anyone that wants to lose weight, visit DrOz.com. Okay, and then how about this one?
We're back talking about the newest, fastest fat buster, Garcinia cambogia extract. Want to know how well it works? Well, meet Missy. This is what she looked like before she began taking Garcinia cambogia.
She looks fine.
While she was taking it, she lost 10 pounds in less than 4 months. Here's what she looks like now. You look really good.
10 pounds in 4 months? That's like, there's nothing miraculous about losing 10 pounds in 4 months if you cut back on your calories. But he's selling supplements. Just like Alex Jones sells supplements. There's a fortune to be made selling that crap. So it just went woo right over your head that one of them is mentally deficient in that they have no principles, in that they lied to your face. But you like the smoothness, the flawlessness, the smarminess, the slimy way of lying instead of telling the truth in a halting fashion. Okay, so I guess you've prioritized that serious governing is all about speechifying. That's your criteria. Has nothing to do with character, has nothing to... And Herschel Walker, oh my God, please do not come at me with him saying, oh, it's just hearsay. It's not hearsay. This man's entire life is full of violent episodes. It is full of mental breaks with reality. It is full of diagnoses. Okay, he was diagnosed with dissociative disorder, which is a fancy way of saying schizophrenia. Okay, the man has mental health issues. Except like, I will say this, for the mental health community, they know that this is true. Most people who suffer with mental health issues, mental health disparities, or mental health, a lack of mental health, they are more likely to be victims of violent crime than they are to commit it. Not in Herschel's case. Herschel Walker is a violent, repeat offender, and you want to send him to the Senate. But John Fetterman, who has a health issue, I mean, FDR had polio. He was paralyzed. He was in a wheelchair, and he was the best president we ever had. JFK had Addison's disease, okay? He had incredible muscle spasms, caused him insane amounts of pain. I'm sure he took something for that, and yet he was a civil rights icon in American history. You would deprive us of a serious person who wants to solve the problems of people in this country in a serious manner, in a careful manner, in a considered manner, simply because he has a hard time with elocution on a debate stage? Well, your judgment isn't exactly what I would hope it could be if you step back and took a moment, just took a beat and listened to what you just told me. Herschel Walker, it's all hearsay. But Fetterman couldn't think. There was nothing wrong with his thinking. There was something wrong with his speech. Those two were not the same. And I think in the 21st century, we're sophisticated enough to understand that. There are people who have strokes that one side of their face is paralyzed. Doesn't mean that they can't govern. Doesn't mean that they can't do a job. Doesn't mean that they're not compassionate. Doesn't mean that they're not thoughtful. Doesn't mean that they're not capable. It just means that certain things are harder. That he showed up on that stage was an act of sheer courage, grit, determination. He's not doing this for glamour. He's not doing this for money. Herschel Walker is. Yeah, and so is Mehmet Oz. He's not even from here.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy.
Whatever he does, he accuses everyone else of doing. The man cannot tell the truth, but he combines it with being a narcissist. A narcissist at a level I don't think this country's ever seen.
And my concern is that he would grab up that power and really treat the country as sort of his little bully fiefdom.
Donald Trump is everything I taught my children not to do in kindergarten.
He's been exploiting working Americans for 40 years.
He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot.
He says he's for the little guy, but he's actually built a lot of his businesses on the backs of the little guy.
That's what a lack of character, a lack of principles, a lack of values looks like, sounds like. Okay? And that makes you mentally defective. That's the kind of defect in a person's character, in a person's thinking, in a person's ability to, just set aside everything they know about this man. That is bad for this country. That is bad for Americans. That is bad for the economy. That is bad for business. That is bad for us. That is bad for patriotism. That is everything that's wrong with the Republican Party right there. They have no principles. There are no values in that party. There's no solutions in that party either for anything that ails you, okay? All there is a bunch of money, a bunch of giant donors. And it's just a handful of people. And they are controlling everything in this country. The price of bread, the price of gas, the price of beef, the price of rice. They're controlling everything. And they're getting a pass on the gouging. They're getting a pass on this windfall profit taking because the Republicans are protecting them. So they've made their choice, they have. And they have chosen not you, Mr. MAGA. They have chosen themselves. They have chosen power over you. And that, to me, is un-American. That it's anti-American, un-American, whatever you want to call it. But it has nothing to do with democracy, and it has nothing to do with fairness, and it has nothing to do with values or principles or character or the ability to stand up to the bullies or the ability to turn down money or the ability to do the right thing when no one's looking. Has nothing to do with the golden rule, has nothing to do with anything that you probably value. Just guessing. Tom in Boston.
Hi, Randy. I'm so glad you got me in. Randy, it gets so frustrating. I listen to this, and I think I've called you a few times over the last couple of decades, and I like to put things in pitches. And I just wanted to compare Fetterman to Joe Biden. Now, a lot of people want to badmouth him, but he had stuttered all his life. And I'll tell you, the numbers are gelled. The people are growing because he's a principled individual. He is. All these years we've had wars.
And he's effective. He actually is effective. He actually was able to get passed and signed the ability for the Medicare program to negotiate with Big Pharma the price that the Medicare insurance program is going to pay for pharmaceuticals. That was a monumental achievement when you know that Big Pharma is literally greasing every Republican. Every Republican.
He's building a pyramid instead of a top that falls over to the owners. You know, he knows what he's doing. He's been around.
Everybody,
and I'm so happy he's the president. He's like a town state.
I was going to say, anybody that wants to know can know easily that Joe Biden believes that you build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. And that everything that the Republicans have been selling has been a bunch of bunk, garbage, trash.
Exactly. Who else could have done what he's done to unite everybody? Now, you look at Fetterman's army, you think, oh, he's a tattooed. And I didn't know him. I learned what he said. You know, he's the man, exactly what he says. He is principled. He is a work of art for the people on the bottom. And, you know, people stop listening to the light waves and the sound waves that are bombarding you from the owners and their unfair leverage, because it's all a bunch of, it's just bizarre what we're living through. I mean, look at what they've done and what the Republicans have done for us. They've taken money to the top and we're gone. It keeps increasing. I don't even think under Joe Biden we've been able to get it under control because of this gouging. So we know what to do. Randy, we really know what to do.
Yes, we do. But we need serious people.
Randy, like 10 years after the song, I want to change the world, but I don't know what to do. But I do. Joe Biden, Fetterman, you. We know what to do.
That's a great song,
you know?
by the way.
So isn't it fantastic? Another good one is American Tunes, another good one. Let's get some rest, people. Let's do it right so we get some rest someday. We need it. It's been a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Tom. Steve in Missouri.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Steve.
You're the only sane one here.
It is a defective. It's a defective party. You know, they don't even have a platform because they say elect us and then we'll tell you what we're going to do to you, right?
Yeah. You know, who's going to buy that?
I
mean, we've been down that road. I don't know how many times. I'm old enough to know, but I just wanted to say, you know, when that guy came on and was bad-mouthing Fetterman, I mean, my blood pressure went up.
Yeah.
So I had to call you. And, you know, ignorance, you know, your children are ignorant. That's why we send them off to school to be educated. Okay? Ignorance is curable. That's why they go to school, to be educated. So you're not ignorant no more. Stupidity, well, that, on the other hand, is terminal. You literally give them the correct answers to what they're wanting. And yet, no matter what you say, they're going to keep to their point. They're never going to come down off of their high horse, ever.
Well, I feel sorry. I feel sorry for you know, listen.
I was going to say, if God Almighty himself were to come down and be the president, God Almighty himself, they would find fault in him. I mean, they found fault in his son.
Yeah.
You know, you cannot fix stupid because it's terminal.
Well, you know, I just have in my heart this idea that maybe this person that is going to be on the other end of the phone, or maybe this person that's watching us right now, is persuadable, right? Maybe
you are changing people's minds. Those are the ignorant ones that are actually getting smart now, because there's somebody on the radio that's actually giving out the facts, and it's backed up.
Yes, I mean, everything.
With your homework.
Exactly. Everything that I say, I rely on various things, and I produce them every single day for your perusal. I publish every single day, every study, every piece of information, every article, every, accounting of the GDP. I publish it every single day at randirhodes.com. So everyone can have a little look-see and see if I'm actually coming from a numerically provable place, and math
well,
is
also, another thing is, all they got to do is look at your history, what you've done for the last, decades. It's not like you're a rookie and just started last week.
Right, and it's also not like, get paid $30 million a year to say something or say, something else. I don't. I mean, we're all viewer supported. Anybody that's listening, feel free, just feel free to support what we do, either Free Speech TV, if that's your thing, or, RandiRhodes.com. Either of those work. But honestly, we don't do this for, craps and giggles. We don't do this for glamour. We don't do this for money. We don't do this for prestige. We do this because it's important that it gets done. We do this because we believe that there are persuadable people out there who can learn something new every single day. I know I learn something new every single day. Every single day.
I draw the line. Politics. It doesn't matter what it is. When you start making fun of people who have either temporary or even permanent disabilities, but yet your cognitive abilities are there.
Yes.
That right there, the ignorance is it's unbelievable.
But here, there's nothing new under the sun about it. Remember, Donald Trump, their dear leader, stood there and made fun of a Washington Post world-class reporter because he had a physical disability, and he mocked him and made fun of him, okay?
They would make fun of they would probably make fun of their own relatives who have that kind of disability.
Well, what's really sad is that disability didn't rob that journalist of being able to be a journalist and a factual documenter of current events. I mean, he's a magnificent reporter. Donald Trump didn't like the reporting, and so he made fun of him. And that's what people are doing to Fetterman. They don't like his principles. They don't like his values. They don't like his character.
Mary had a little lamb. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
It's Friday. It's a frightening Friday, you bastards.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband has been attacked in his home, in their home. Dana Bash is back with us now to tell us what we know about this, Dana.
Horrifying. What we know is a statement from Speaker Pelosi's office explains some of the details. Here's what it says. Early this morning, an assailant broke into the Pelosi residence in San Francisco and violently assaulted Mr. Pelosi.
Oh my God.
The assailant is in custody, and the motivation for the attack is under investigation. Mr. Pelosi was taken to the hospital where he is receiving excellent medical care and is expected to make a full recovery, which is great news. The speaker was not in San Francisco at the time, and they are saying that they are grateful to the medical professionals and asking for privacy at this time. I mean, absolutely horrifying, terrifying. We have been talking about experiencing sort of violence across the board, and whether or not, this is very clear, the motivation for the attack is under investigation. Whether or not it is politically motivated, we do not know yet. Regardless, if someone like Paul Pelosi, who clearly lives in a place where I would imagine they have a pretty darn good security system, can be the victim of such a crime, it's pretty eye-opening and, again, horrific.
We are down the rabbit hole. We are literally off the tracks, over the cliff. This is so unbelievably, obviously dangerous. The amount of violence that is included with any mention of MAGA, maggots, and Trump is just astronomical through the roof. It is off the charts. This is crazy. Now, before anybody yells at me and says, you didn't say anything about Kavanaugh, let's say something about Kavanaugh. A mentally ill man he said he was going to kill, Kavanaugh, and actually turned himself in. He picked up the phone. He called himself in. He knew he was having a break with reality. He knew he was off the rails. He knew he was in trouble, and he self-reported. That's the Kavanaugh story. Steve Scalise, okay? That was a guy who went to a Republican baseball game and shot up the entire freaking place, okay? And that was horrendous. That was ugly. That was violent. That was wrong. That was bad. Okay, you good? Because Nancy Pelosi has received death threats for ever since the election, ever since, Donald Trump lost. There have been 9,600 threats to members of Congress since Donald Trump lost the election. Okay? Since Donald Trump lost the election. Gretchen Whitmer was threatened to be kidnapped, put on trial, and executed by people who Trump literally lit a fire under and got them all worked up over COVID, saying COVID was unreal. COVID was a hoax. COVID was a plot against him. It had to do with him, And people literally started to, agitate and marinate and ruminate in the possibility that Gretchen Whitmer was trying to enslave them or whatever the hell they were reading and hearing on Newsmax and OAN and Fox News and Right Side Broadcasting and Steve Bannon and the whole freaking social media cabal, okay? And Katie Hobbs, too. Katie Hobbs has had death threats at her home. Katie Hobbs' office was broken into yesterday. Voters are terrified. You have people in Arizona that are sitting in Maricopa County wearing tactical gear, armed, threatening, just intimidating voters just by looking at them, just by being there in lawn chairs, with their faces covered, masked faces with firearms. This is insanity. This is total bullcrap. And we know more now than we did this morning. And, kudos to the media, kudos to the legitimate media for not jumping to conclusions about who this person was. Now we know a whole lot more about what happened at 2:30 in the morning at the Pelosi residence in San Francisco. This was the first clue we got. Okay, this is Jamie Gangel reporting early.
John, it appears we may actually have the motive, or at least part of the motive. I've just been told by a source who was briefed on the attack that the assailant who attacked Paul Pelosi was actually in search for the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. That before the assault occurred, in other words, before he attacked Pelosi, the intruder confronted the Speaker's husband in their home and was shouting, quote, "Where is Nancy? Where is Nancy?" So, John, again, this is from a source who was briefed on the attack, who says before he physically assaulted the Speaker's husband, he was clearly looking for Pelosi herself. Quote, "Where is Nancy? Where is Nancy?"
Okay, so we learned that a couple hours ago, and we got updated by a presser that was held by the San Francisco Police Department, who described what they encountered. Now, I'm sure the alarm, the intruder alarm, I'm sure, their Ring doorbell or whatever it is, the panic button, however they secure their house, actually notified police that there was an intruder. This is a person who came in through the back door. I've been made to understand, I don't know if it's, reliable, that there's sliding glass doors in the back of their house, and that's how the intruder came in. And this man came in and was asking, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" Paul Pelosi was 2:30 in the morning. I guess he thought he'd be asleep and would catch him by surprise. I have no idea. But a struggle ensued with a hammer. What I don't know is if the intruder brought a hammer, which is very personal. That's a very personal thing, to want to, bang on somebody's head, bash somebody's head open with a hammer, or if Paul Pelosi went to get a hammer to defend himself. But when the police arrived, they were struggling over the hammer.
At approximately 2:27 this morning, San Francisco police officers were dispatched to the residence of Speaker Nancy Pelosi regarding an A-priority well-being check. When the officers arrived on scene, they encountered an adult male and Mr. Pelosi's husband, Paul. Our officers observed Mr. Pelosi and the suspect both holding a hammer. The suspect pulled the hammer away from Mr. Pelosi and violently assaulted him with it.
Oh, God.
Our officers immediately tackled the suspect, disarmed him, took him into custody, requested emergency backup, and rendered medical aid. The suspect has been identified as 42-year-old David DePepe. Mr. Pelosi and Mr. DePepe were transported to a local hospital for treatment. This is an active investigation currently being led by the San Francisco Police Department Special Investigations Division. We are working closely with our partners from the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the U.S. Capitol Police, and our district attorney here in San Francisco County, D.A. Brooke Jenkins, and her team. The motive for this attack is still being determined. Mr. DePepe will be booked at the San Francisco County Jail on the following charges: attempted homicide, assault with a deadly weapon, elder abuse, burglary, and several other additional felonies.
Oh, my God. Dear God. All right. Few hours went by. As soon as we got the name, everybody started Googling this guy, David DePepe. David DePepe has lots of social media, and it's all deranged, every last bit of it. He is a follower. He reposts everything Mike Lindell posts about election denial and scams and machines flipping votes. He's a COVID, he believes COVID was a hoax. He's extremely anti-Semitic. He actually has a social media page called DA, Duh, Jews. Yeah. Says 9/11 was an inside job. He denies that the election was free and fair. He is supportive of January 6th, criminals. I mean, responsive to every single conspiracy theory laid in front of him.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
We're looking at just some of the disturbing social media posts that, the investigators are also going through, and you get a very, obviously, a picture of a disturbed person, somebody who has been posting things on Facebook, including links to the MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell's false claims about election fraud in the 2020 election. There's some transphobic images. We've also seen stuff on there about the COVID vaccines and about the Derek Chauvin trial. This is the police officer in Minnesota who was convicted of killing George Floyd.
Oh my God.
There's also some references on his social media postings about the January 6th committee. He calls it the Democrat Farce Commission, or the committee. Again, this is part of the reason why the FBI is assisting in this investigation, and it really gives you a sense that, in addition to some of the stuff we've heard from Jamie Gangel's sources, that he was looking for the Speaker of the House. It gives you a sense that this was at least partially a politically motivated attack.
I honestly, when I heard that this guy broke in at 2:30 in the morning, I really didn't think he was looking for her pins or her pearls, do you know? But everybody reserved judgment until we actually had a name. And as soon as we had a name, we started Googling the crap out of this guy. And he's an anti-Semitic guy who has fallen for every single solitary conspiracy theory that has ever been propounded and put forward and tweeted and Facebooked and lied about on Gab and Bannon's show, and all of these criminals who still have huge microphones that tell people a load of garbage, disinformation, misinformation on purpose in order to agitate, in order to aggravate, in order to make them want to hurt somebody, because they think that they are defending this country from Nancy Pelosi. They think that they're defending this country from from Jews. Let's just say what they think. They think that this country it needs protection from parades. They think that this country needs protection from, you name it, China, COVID. Are we just going to sit here and not acknowledge that something is so wrong with the way that the media is running. Something is so wrong with the way that social media is. Something is so wrong with people in this country. Something is so wrong with, people's ability to grasp logic and reason. Something is so wrong when people want to believe every horrific, horrible thing about this country, about America. They just want to believe the absolute worst simply because they lost an election. It blows my mind because, in 2000, I was in West Palm Beach. I mean, that's where I voted. I voted in Palm Beach County. It was, a horrific looking ballot. I'll never forget it. They called it the butterfly ballot. It was confusing and bizarre. And if you had to, stab with a stylus a hole in the ballot that went down the spine of the ballot. And on either side of the spine were names of candidates. And it looked like if you wanted to vote for Al Gore, you poked the third hole. But truly, if you wanted Al Gore, you had to poke the second hole. But the second hole did not align with Al Gore's name. The second hole aligned the third hole aligned with Pat Buchanan's. The whole thing, and I remember getting back, I was just local then. This is 20 years ago. And I remember sitting in my chair at 3:00 saying, you know what? I think I just voted for Pat Buchanan. And the phone lit up like a Christmas tree and everybody said, I do too. I think I did too. I was so confused. What was with that ballot? I couldn't figure out which hole I was supposed to poke if I wanted Al Gore. And I think instead I poked the hole that said I voted for Pat Buchanan. Even Pat Buchanan said there is no way I got that many votes in any county, let alone Palm Beach County, which is completely divided. Okay, it's equally Republican and Democrat. And everybody's voting for this, rogue candidate, this Pat Buchanan thing. So it was obvious that something had gone horribly wrong in the design of the ballot. At the end of 36 contested days, 36 damn days, everybody waited for the results of that election. We were told by the United States Supreme Court, please stop counting. There is no more time left for you to continue to sort through whatever the hell went on there, okay? And so we're going to stop the counting today. And at this point in time, George W. Bush is ahead by 535 votes. And we're calling it right there. That's it. And the reason they did that is because we have a protest period and a contest period, believe it or not. And we were running out of time to meet the deadline for the certification of the Electoral College, December. Okay? And so they said, you can't continue anymore. And so we had a president who was appointed literally by the United States Supreme Court. And there was no violence. There was a lot of heartbreak. There was a lot of disappointment. There was a lot of stunned people in the county that I live in, that I voted in. But nobody got violent, except for the Republicans. I swear to God. They came down here and they started banging on the glass windows at the Supervisor of Elections office. Her name was Teresa Lepore. That's the one who designed the ballot. And that's the one that caused, all of this. But the Republicans were so scared that they would lose that they literally sent congressional staffers dressed up in khakis and, button downs. They called them the Brooks Brothers revolt, okay? And they came down here and they were pretending to be ordinary citizens from the area, but they weren't. And they started banging on the windows. Let us in. Let us in. And that was the first clue that anybody who wanted to know could know, that if Republicans ever lost a close election, ever, they would turn violent. They would, turn to banging and screaming and yelling. If not now, of course, going to the polls armed and sitting in lawn chairs, trying to intimidate you from even casting your vote. And then if they lose on the other side, coups, bloodless ones, going to court, filing, fake and fraudulent documents with the court saying, we have evidence when you don't. We have affidavits when you don't. And then literally breaking windows on the United States Capitol, smearing feces on the floor and on the walls, beating police officers, spraying them with pepper spray, screaming, "I got one," when you're able to separate Michael Fanone from the other Capitol police officers. And now, by the way, we know what the ratio of protesters to police was that day. There were 58 protesters for every Capitol police officer that day. We needed the National Guard, and the National Guard was not allowed to go. We know that governors from neighboring states were trying to get their National Guard permission to go and protect the Capitol, and the White House wasn't giving it.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody, it is a Freaky Friday. There's no question about it. And, it's also the Friday before Halloween. And if you're not scared, you will be. I don't know what else could happen that would scare me more than what I woke up to this morning. But, hey, listen. The idea that we need more media like this, independent media that doesn't take political money, that doesn't take, corporate money, that just does this because it's important that you get oriented, that you get the right information, that you understand what's afoot, what's foul, that you understand that there's news stations out there that aren't news at all. They're propaganda. They're lying to you. They're manipulating you. They're trying to get you to vote yet again against your own best interests, instead of giving you the space to figure out what your own best interest might look like and who is best to, execute your vision. Who is best to protect whatever it is you want to protect, your children at school or your privacy rights or, each other at the polling place, right? Whoever wants to live free of intimidation. That's kind of why we do what we do. We certainly aren't doing it for glamour, and we're certainly not doing it for fame and fortune. We're doing it because it's important that it gets done. And if you support that idea, if you think that that's a good idea, if you think that's a necessary idea, a needed idea, then please do support this. Today is just it was a 2-day deal. Yesterday and today. Yesterday's done. Today is today, and then we're done. Okay, so this is your last day to donate to Free Speech TV. And whatever you donate will be matched up to $10,000 by our frontline funders. We have Murray in New York. We have a Virginia viewer. We have, just a wonderful set of people that put their money where our mouths are. It's insane that they do it, but they believe in what we're doing. They think and they know that it's important. So give us a call at 877-378-8669. There it is. Or you can go to freespeech.org and donate online, or text 44321 and put the letters FSTV in there, and we'll send you a secure link, and you can make your donation. You could say if you want it to recur monthly or a one-time deal, up to you. You can cancel anytime at all. You just say, I'm done. Please stop. And it'll stop. It's just that simple. So thank you very much. I hope you'll do it. I really do, because we're about to experience some contretemps. You know how they like to say you're about to go through some things? You know how Trump always threatens like that? You're about to go through some things. She's about to go through some things. Yeah, we're about to go through some things. And let me tell you what those things are. The reason why Donald Trump is telling maggots to vote on Election Day and not before, even though we know today that almost 18 million Americans decided, I'm doing it early, I'm banking my vote, I'm getting it done. And a lot of us are doing it because we don't want to deal with them at the polling places on Election Day. I know I don't. And I always vote on Election Day. I always do. But I'm going to vote early this year. I'm going to vote early because I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to be challenged by them for their lunatic, fringy ideas. I don't want them to be able to say, she's not speaking clearly when she says her name. I mean, it's a bizarre thing that's going on at polling places on Election Day. Now, why is he telling his, sycophants to vote on Election Day? Simple, because what will get reported out first are Election Day machine-counted results. And if Trump has all of his people voting on election day, and he's not even on the ballot, okay? But if he can get his puppets into Congress, okay, he'll be happy. He'll be happy. He needs to get the Herschel Walkers into the Congress. He needs to get the Gosars back to Congress. He needs to get the lunatic, fringy Ron Johnson back to Congress. He needs to have Large Marge be in charge of the House Oversight Committee. I swear to God. So he's telling them all to vote on Election Day because those will be the first totals that we see, the Election Day totals. And if the masses of maggots vote on Election Day, it's going to look kind of Republican election night. But remember, there's already 18 million banked votes that won't be counted until after the election night. And he's going to tell all of these freaks, he's going to tell all these people that are agitating, all these people that are looking for an excuse, all these, armed people that they did it again. They stole it again. And everything flipped in the middle of the night. They did it again. And he's going to release the hounds, basically, and tell them to do it again. The insurrection isn't over. It's not over. These Proud Boy freaks, they're out there, okay? We just saw, I guess they invited, one of the ex-Proud Boys, what's his name, McKinnon, or, they invited him to Penn State. And the Proud Boy lunatics showed up and started pepper spraying people there. Same thing happened at UC Davis the other night. The Proud Boys were, out there pepper spraying people that were protesting.
Violence at the hands of a group wearing the Proud Boys logo on UC Davis's campus, targeting protesters of a conservative speaking event hosted by a student organization.
The metal barricades that sometimes people use for crowd control at events like this and hurl them full force at the crowd with no care or consideration for the injuries that might have been caused.
Videos shared with CBS 13 show the back and forth. In one, a UC Davis student says she's been sprayed with mace and that her eyes burn and she can't see.
They broke her property just simply for being a conservative.
This is not the first time that the Proud Boys have harassed our community, and unfortunately, we believe it won't be the last.
A community activist who came to peacefully protest the speaking event said nothing was violent, and then, all at once, when this extremist group arrived, so did violence.
We have seen the same faces again and again who come to our community from outside in order to create mayhem.
Therein lies one of the answers. These instigators don't live in this community. The director of the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism told me he studies events just like this and groups like the Proud Boys.
They particularly enjoy showing up in places where they can own the libs. So blue places like college campuses or even in cities.
While the group has grown recently due to publicity, they work in chapters and come together across regions. Violence, UC Davis said, quote, calls for harms to others or acts of violence are not protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
But the bottom line is, wherever there's an opportunity for them to violently promote their fascistic message, they will show up.
Yes, these people want to see fascism. I have no idea why they want to see fascism. I don't think, they might have it in their demented little brains that they'll benefit somehow, but it never works out that way. It never does. Anybody that's out there thinking fascism, yes, I'm for it, I want it, I'm a nationalist, I'm a white nationalist, I'm a white Christian, it never works out, okay? There is no system better than we the people. There just isn't. And it will not work out for you. It never does, it never has, it never will. This violence, this political violence in this country is such a dead end. For everyone. It has to stop.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Billionaire Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, has taken control of Twitter, according to CNBC, which is citing unnamed sources. The deal puts him at the helm of one of the leading global social media platforms. The Tesla CEO and founder of SpaceX completing the reported $44 billion deal on the eve of a court-appointed deadline to finish his on-again, off-again bid to purchase the company. One of his first moves, CNBC reports, ousting top executives, including CEO Parag Agrawal, then tweeting late Thursday, "The bird is freed," with apparent reference to the Twitter logo and to the completion of the deal, changing his own Twitter handle to Chief Twit. In a hint that a deal was imminent, Musk posting this video of himself Wednesday walking into Twitter's San Francisco office carrying a porcelain sink as he entered the glass doors. Tweeting, "Entering Twitter headquarters. Let that sink in." The Silicon Valley titan trying to placate Twitter advertisers, saying he's buying the platform to help humanity and doesn't want it to become a free-for-all hellscape where anything can be said with no consequences. This comes after a long back-and-forth battle. Back in April, Musk agreed to buy Twitter for that whopping $44 billion.
Well, I think it's very important for there to be an inclusive arena for free speech.
Then began backpedaling out of the deal, alleging that the company failed to adequately disclose the number of spam and fake accounts on the service. Now final, this Twitter takeover, leaving many to speculate whether Musk could remove lifetime bans, including bringing back former President Trump, who was permanently banned from the site after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Though Trump has said in the past that he would probably not return if his account was reinstated.
Who knows what that man will do? I mean, this is unbelievable. So Twitter is now owned by Elon Musk. All right. So Twitter is owned by Elon Musk, who tweeted the day after January 6th that you should use Signal, right? That you should use an encrypted app so you could talk to each other, Proud Boys, right? Gab is run by Andrew Torba, who I've played clips of, who is one of the biggest anti-Semites that has ever come down the pike, and he owns a social media network. Truth Social, a social media network, is owned by Donald Trump. Getter, which is used by right-wing lunatic fringe, is owned by Jason Miller, who's also a self-hating anti-Semite because he's Jewish. He is the most self-loathing Jew I have ever seen come down the pike. Parler. Kanye, who says he's fascinated with Hitler, wanted to call one of his albums Hitler and had to be talked out of it, according to people close to Kanye. He now wants to buy Parler, and Mark Zuckerberg owns Facebook, which is now Meta, and, is bleeding, hemorrhaging money. So basically every single social media organization is owned by some right-wing person. That's really stunning to me. Fox News is run by Rupert Murdoch, OAN, Newsmax. They're all right-wing outlets. They're all outlets that will spread conspiracy theories, agitate people to violence, tell them, any false thing that they think will sell with that crowd. I mean, it is really unbelievable. But the key that unlocks all of the miscreants is that the party known as the GOP, the Republican Party, the grand old party, stays completely silent as all of this goes on. They've never once said there is no truth to the election denial. They've never once said Mike Lindell is full of crap. They never once said COVID is real, it's killing people, and Florida, you've lost 82,000, smarten up. They have never said that anti-Semitism needs to stop. They've never denounced, except on January 6th, the day that they felt threatened, they said, Donald Trump is responsible. Donald Trump bears some responsibility. And then all of a sudden, Mitch McConnell went completely silent, and, Kevin McCarthy changed his tune, changed his entire tune. And now he's all about Trump. So this is not a democracy at this moment. That's the bad news. It's not. The good news is we have an election that is going on right now. Right now. Most of you can vote early. Almost everyone that is listening can vote early. Everybody knows that they can vote. And if not, they can vote on a week from Tuesday. Okay? And that's the good news. The bad news is we are not on a trajectory to remain or be a democracy today. Today, we're not. Today, we have too much media being controlled by too much lying, too much disinformation, too much propaganda. And people are disoriented in this country. And they take the path of least resistance, which is anger, aggression, resentment, hatred. It's much easier to hate than it is to love, and everybody knows that because, you know, if you really truly love your country, you might be asked to serve it. If you hate your country, no one's going to ask you to do jack crap. Brother David.
Sister, from what you just said to the nth power, it is frazzled, feces-throwing, falsifying Fascist Friday. And here we are.
Well, I need to yell at you now.
Okay.
You scared us.
I had to go in and cover. I got a last-minute call to cover in a colleague's shift because she has COVID-related pneumonia.
All well and good. Very good Samaritan of you. Laudable. All of it. Send me a little email. Send me, just something. Because let me tell you something. People called all week. Had I heard from you? Are you okay? Where was he? I don't see him in the chat room. What's going on? You surely must know where he is and what's going on. You guys have been talking to each other for 20 years. And it dawns on me that you don't communicate with me except on Fridays in this manner. And
because
when you
it's what keeps it pure.
I know, but if you're going to...
I will.
Yes.
I will.
David, you're a celebrity officially. And as far as excuses go, that's a good one, Randy.
Wasn't that the best? Yeah, because of course it would be a high-minded,
Well... Here's the thing, and duly noted. Hi, chat room. Sorry about that, but I've been covering for sick people all week. And please go to freespeech.org. It's matching freaky pre-Halloween Friday.
It is.
This has been a fraught week for me, starting with the fact that Leslie Jordan was a dear friend of mine.
Oh,
he was my
sorry.
first ever professional interview.
Oh.
Remember during your Scare America days when I called you one day and said that Reverend Fred Phelps and the Westboro Baptist people were protesting in the height of West LA's Jewish community with God Hates Jews?
Yes, God hates the F word, yes.
Well, it was Leslie that called me. David, are you calling Randy today? You alerted me. That one walked the walk. This has reached, I voted on Monday. My ballot went out because I'm going to be, as of now, a poll worker.
Howard too. He says he's going to do it.
I'm going to do it. I will have gotten through Halloween. I'm going as Mallory tomorrow. I got the Lady Chang done yesterday.
Get out of here, Mallory.
Yes, I am. Oh, absolutely.
So
I'm trying
genius.
I'm trying to memorize her speech. The speech that went viral.
God. So Brett, Brett brought all his gear in today to show me his costume, and I'm like, no. He, I don't know if you know this. Brett's black, and so he decided that he was going to be a maggot, okay?
No, a real American worried about the crisis in this country. That's what I went as.
American, God bless
American. Yeah, he went as American, and I made him take it off. I couldn't. It was scary. It was horrifying. I just no.
And it is scary. But I keep going back to FDR.
Yeah.
The only thing we have to fear, and that's what feeds the maggots. Well, it's what can galvanize us. There are still more of capital U, capital S, period, us.
I know.
I know you know.
I know he uses these people as foils. You know, he uses them as, the lead to the bullcrap. That's why he's telling them to vote on Election Day, right? Because he wants the election night numbers to look like, the puppets that he has endorsed.
Like they did on Election Night 2020. Yeah.
And that we flipped it in the middle of the night, or we did something untoward, or like we counted ballots that were sent in early, like 18 million of them.
Well, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Vote now if you can, but vote. Get 10 people who aren't registered, register them while you still can. The people are coming.
I hope so, man. I'm counting on it.
It's what we got. There's still more of us than them, my dear.
I know. I woke up last night, though, at 5 o'clock in the morning. I could not go back to sleep. Just full of anxiety about next Tuesday. Seriously. It's starting to scare me. It's starting to cause anxiety. Because the people that he's promoting, they're puppets. They're mental defectives. They're diagnosed people with disorders, okay? This is not good.
Mary had a little lamb.
We believe that all men are created
equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Hey, y'all, let's talk about inflation. I feel like most of us Americans look at inflation the way a dog looks at fireworks, like no idea how or why that's happening, but it sure is scary and confusing, and we wish it would stop. So much so that apparently a bunch of us are going to vote Republican over it, something I don't understand. It's hard for me to imagine somebody in Georgia saying with a straight face, you know, I just feel like I ain't got no choice but to vote for the brain-damaged, abusive, Christo-fascist running back. I mean, have you seen the price of eggs? It's wild to me, but people blame the Democrats for it because they're in power. But my question is, what are the Republicans going to do to fix inflation? Like, what is their plan? I feel like if they were being honest, they would say, yeah, we don't really do the whole plan thing. We're more into like rage-fueled obfuscation, you know, stuff like that. Like they don't plan much. They mostly just froth and agitate. But if you look very hard, you can find their proposed approach to inflation. It's three-pronged. They would repeal Biden's minimum tax on corporations, extend the Trump tax cuts for the wealthy, and curb federal spending, particularly on safety net programs. All right. One by one, all right? Repeal the minimum tax on corporations. Did y'all know that while inflation is rising, corporate profits are soaring to record heights? So you might think, okay, well, maybe those corporations can use some of those record profits to offset the rising cost to consumers, to which the corporations would surely respond with a chorus of cartoonishly evil laughter and puff of cigar smoke, right? Like they could be helping right now, and they're not. What is giving them a break gonna do? All right, related, tax cuts for the wealthy, they're the people least impacted by this problem. Is the GOP really looking at the fact that the cost of everyday goods is out of control and their solution is to give more money to the people who couldn't tell you the price of a gallon of milk if their life depended on it? Really? They want to help the people least impacted and hurt the people most impacted. They want to curb spending on safety net programs. I picture them in some GOP think tank somewhere like, you guys know how the poor and seniors are complaining they can only afford one meal a day because of inflation? Well, I was thinking, what if we just let them all die, right? Like, who's complaining then? Problem solved. Right? It's simple stuff, guys. Like, how's this any of this going to help? It makes me wonder what their proposed solutions would be to other problems if they took power. Like, based on this, I feel like if you asked them, what are y'all going to do about the opioid epidemic? They'd go, oh, glad you asked. Yeah, first we're going to deregulate big pharma. We're going to send a load of cocaine to the cartels, and we're going to close all the rehab clinics in this country, huh? How about that? That's too stupid not to work. Am I right? Oh, also, I almost forgot. It's illegal to be gay again. Happy holidays. Hope you don't get shot. Right? You know what I mean? Like, I know we're all tired of dealing with inflation, but if the Republicans win, we're just going to be dealing with inflation and an authoritarian hellscape. So I'm begging you, don't fall for it. Love y'all.
Trey Crowder, everybody. Trey Crowder.
I love his surgical application of froth. The Republicans are always frothing angry or frothing over this and that. He's amazing.
I love that word too. That was one of the frothing and agitating. I actually wrote that down to describe that clip for myself, right? Like when I make my little list of what's in the clip, I wrote frothing and agitating. That's what it is. But yeah, he's so right. That's why it's funny. That's why it's hysterical. That's why it's a laugh. That's why it's a laugh fest, because they won't tell you what they're for, because if they did, then they would tell you they are for all of us dying or killing each other. That is what they're for. Thinning out the herd, everybody. You know, eugenics and all that. They are for corporate tax cuts. Corporate tax cuts in a time when corporate profits are humongous. In fact, Exxon's profits just came out, $19.7 billion. You might think that's for the whole year. Oh, no. Oh, hell no. That's for the quarter. That's for the quarter, which is 3 times the amount of profit they made at this time last year. That's called a windfall. See, that's how you chart and graph whether or not it's legitimate profit or it's a windfall that was made through gouging. You look at same time last year, you look at the profits, and if it's double, if it's triple, it's called a windfall, and you tax that so that there's no incentive to do that to us. This is one of the most, this commodity, this oil and gas thing, as you can see now, as the world unravels, is a national security commodity. It is something of the greatest importance, especially in winter. And they're gouging you. So Exxon's profit was $19.7 billion, which is 3 times what the quarter was last year at this time. The previous quarter, meaning the quarter before this one, was $17.9 billion. So if you were saying, well, maybe last year they were still suffering from some COVID-related lack of travel thing. No. Last quarter, $17 billion. This quarter, almost $20 billion. They're gouging. They're making more and more and more and more every single quarter. The supply is way up. Permian Basin, which is where I used to live in Odessa, all right? That's Odessa Midland. Permian Basin pumping, going great, highest ever. Highest ever in the history of the Permian Basin. New Mexico, highest ever. North American refining back online. The refineries have made amazing profits. Also, just amazing profits. So we looked at Shell yesterday. Shell had a double of what they had last year at this time for profits. Shell, and Total Fina, they doubled their profits from the same time last year. 500% increase, right? Chevron, they reported a profit of $11.2 billion in the third quarter. Down slightly from the previous quarter, but double what they were doing last year at the same time. And they're gouging. So, hey, let's give them a tax break on top of it. And that is the Republican plan. That is exactly what they envisioned. It's exactly what they see it as the way forward. And they can't tell you that. That's why they don't have a platform. They can't tell you what they're for, because what they're for is not you. What they're for is not your parents. What they're for is not you if you're trying to go to school. What they're for has nothing to do with humans. It has everything to do with corporations. It has everything to do with stealing. It has everything to do with chaos. Okay? That is their plan. That is what they're for. That's what they're about. You send these mental defectives back to Congress. You send the Gosars. You send the Ron Johnsons. You send, add to it the Herschel Walkers. Send back Large Marge over there. Go ahead. Send her back. And you know what you're going to have? You're going to have inflation out of control. And on top of it, you're going to have an increase in violence. And you're going to have fentanyl. By the way, Large March, she was on the TV telling everybody, you need to check your children's candy for fentanyl. You need to check your children's candy. They're going to give fentanyl to the children. And it's all about immigrant. They're peddling this lie, this myth, this crazy thing that says that illegals are smuggling fentanyl in. Well, I got news for you. 80% of people who try to make it across the border get caught, apprehended, and sent back. 80%. And you know how many drugs we find on those 80% that we apprehend and send back? 0.02% of drugs are found on those people. So where are the other 99% of the drugs coming from? It's called legal travelers. Legal travelers. That's where the drugs are being smuggled. So if you ended illegal immigration in this country completely and we stopped apprehending people, I don't know. It would have no effect on the fentanyl, like zero, zip, goose egg, zilch, squat, donut, nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Fentanyl is being smuggled in because it takes so little, such tiny little amounts, okay, that legal travelers are being contracted by the cartels. Now, how are the cartels the cartels? See, that's a better question. That's a bigger question. That's a question that has a really, really freaky answer. And you know what the answer is? The cartels are the cartels because of American guns. Yeah, American guns. It's the stuff that's going the other way that you have to worry about, like the guns. The guns that are coming from Texas, the guns that are coming from Arizona, the guns that are coming from New Mexico, the guns that are coming over the southern border into Mexico. That's what's arming the cartels. We are. And they always want you to focus on something that has absolutely nothing to do with the problem. Nothing. Just to gin up hatred, resentment, aggression, to make it froth.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
If I had asked you, and we were just walking down the street, so can you tell me what the Republican platform is? What they're for? I'm not joking. I'm being deadly earnest. Like I said, I've been around a long time in public life. Republicans usually always have platforms. Say, this is what we're for. Well, they can't tell you what they're for, but they'll make sure they'll tell you what they're against. They're going to give the power we just gave to Medicare to lower drug prices back to Big Pharma to raise prices instead. The cap on the $2,000 cap on prescription drugs for seniors, gone. If Kevin has his way, McCarthy. $35 a month cap on insulin for diabetes for seniors, gone. Savings on health care premiums of $800 a year for literally millions of Americans under the Affordable Care Act, gone.
Why? Because they serve Big Pharma. They serve oil and gas. They want to steal the Medicare trust fund and privatize it, give it to, themselves. Just like Rick Scott ripped off Medicare, now he's got the entire trust fund in his little, sights there. He's got the entire trust fund in his grip. And this is why they want not just malcontents, but mental defectives, people who are diagnosed with mental illness. This is why Donald Trump went around the country and found some of the most ill-equipped, ill-tempered, violent, illogical, unable to process, business facts and figures, people, and endorse them. Either they were election deniers who believed in conspiracy theories, like the guy that broke into Nancy Pelosi's house this morning, okay, like that, or people that were willing to encourage and do violence and tell their followers this is your 1776 moment, like Lauren Boebert, like Marge, okay, like Gosar, like Biggs, those people, the people that are willing to overthrow the United States government, the people that are willing to undo the will of the people. Those are the people he went out to find. Why? Because they're puppets. They're his puppets. He's the marionette. He's the puppet master, and they're the little marionettes. That's it. That's all he wants. They want to steal. And they can only do it if it's chaotic out here. They can only do it when people can't figure out what's really going on. And that's why all this purchasing of media, that's why all this purchasing of new media, that's why all this purchasing of AM radio stations back in the day, then TV, then newspapers. I mean, think about all the stuff Rupert Murdoch owns, okay? He owns the Wall Street Journal, for God's sake. He owns the Fox News Network, for the love of Pete. He owns the Daily Mail. That's why when people, the New York Post, when people send me articles from any of those, I tell them, you do realize that one person is controlling all this misinformation. You do understand that this is going through one little filter known as the Murdoch family. You understand that, right? And that they are literally siphoning off the truth and feeding you like grounds. It's like a coffee filter. And all you're getting is the bottom, the sludge, the silt. I mean, this is entirely too much media controlled by an entirely conservative cabal of fringy people. Like I said, that all of this social media is owned by, Jason Miller, and now, you got Elon in there. They're turning our lives into a hellscape on purpose. They want one set upon the other. Because when that happens, then they can steal. I've been telling you this for 20 years. In chaos, they can steal. And I don't know that you understood what I meant by it back in the subtle days of stealing elections through, the Supreme Court. Now they're doing it through violence. Now they're doing it through disinformation. Now they're doing it through, confusing people, bamboozling people, conspiracy theories, the Alex Jones of the world, the Bannons of the world, on the Getter and the Gab and the this and the that. I mean, it's just such pure, unadulterated hatred for one another. That's it. That's all they have to peddle. It's what they sell. And why? So they can steal. There's still a lot of money that goes to people that they would like to see go to them. Honestly. So they tell you, hey, hey, if the border were secure, we wouldn't have fentanyl deaths. That's a lie, okay? That is an act. First of all, when people who were non-medical users were relying on prescription painkillers, okay, and they were relying on stolen or diverted or pill mill doctors, and they couldn't get that anymore, okay? They couldn't. They just switched because they were addicted, and they switched to something more dangerous known as heroin. Meanwhile, genuine pain patients suffered immensely. And so did the heroin users, because making cheaper, badass heroin required something known as fentanyl. Almost everyone who dies of a fentanyl overdose in this country is a United States citizen. And yet people are telling you that it's a border thing. It's not a border thing. It's an addiction thing. It's a prohibition thing. And the more you prohibit, the more you get a black market. The more you prohibit, the cure for fentanyl overdoses is very simple. Can you figure it out? You want me to tell it to you? Test strips. That's how simple it is. You give everybody test strips that needs to use illicit drugs. And you tell them before you do this, before you snort it, before you shoot it, before whatever you're going to do with it, before you crush it and smoke it, test it. And if there's fentanyl in it, go get some more. Get something else. Don't use it. Don't take it. Or at least know that it's in there and do less so you don't OD. That makes too much sense. And what are politicians going to do with that message? What are they going to do with that? They can't, make you froth at the mouth over, an illegal fentanyl market that we're arming with our guns and is literally being brought here by legal travelers. People who are legal. Fentanyl would disappear if illegal immigration disappeared is a lie. It is an absolute, abject lie. It's wrong. Border crackdowns have exacerbated the crisis, not alleviated the crisis, because it is so potent. A large supply is easily concealed, and it makes it easy to enter the country through legal borders, and that's what happens. Legal travelers smuggle nearly all the fentanyl into this country. That's a fact. Go check me out. So why are they telling you something else? Why are they telling you something, that won't help you solve our problems? Because they're not interested in it. They're interested in one thing: making you agitated, making you violent, making you hate, making you froth. That's it. They're selling pure hatred. They're selling pure misery. Barely 2% of all the hard drugs that enter this country are smuggled in through, illegals. And 80% of the people who are crossing illegally are apprehended. So it doesn't make sense, if I'm a drug smuggler, to use illegals for my drug smuggling if I know that 80% of my illegal drug smugglers are going to be apprehended with my goods.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Happy Halloween, everybody. Happy Halloween. We are doing a very quick in and out fundraiser for Free Speech TV for the benefit of this not-for-profit corporation known as Free Speech TV. If you are so inclined to support independent media, which gives you all the information that makes the world knowable, that takes the crap that is conspiracy theories and games them out so that you can understand they're not happening, then please do support free speech by going to freespeech.org right now, and know that you will be matched dollar for dollar today up to $10,000. So if you gave $500, it would be $1,000. It's just that easy. Or dial 877-378-8669, and a happy person will pick up your phone call over there in beautiful Denver, Colorado. Or text 44321, 44321. And when you do that, put in the letters FSTV, Free Speech TV, and we will send you a secure link, and you can make your donation that way. This will conclude at midnight tonight, so we thank you very much for supporting independent, free media. Okay, thanks. Jay in Washington.
Oh, how you doing, Randy? First time caller.
Oh, really?
Wow. Air America Days, 92.1 in Madison.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Yeah. I was calling because, well, first of all, what you were just saying about agitation, and I feel you 100%. Like, I came out of the Midwest to the West Coast, and out here where I stay in Washington, you know, people have access to healthcare. People have, you know, access to a lot of stuff. So the quality of life is different than a state where they've been divesting for the last 20 years versus investing for the last 20 years. But what I really want to ask about was, like, this is, oftentimes you say this is not who we are. And I think we need to be like, get to the place where we're just like more transparent. Like, this is who we are. And if we want to move forward, we got to accept, like, this is who we've always been. And a lot of our progress has been incidental or accidental because of political expediency, you know?
Well, I'll say it's not accidental. It's incremental. It is slow progress. There's no doubt about it. And
But
yes,
it's not
we
normal.
were founded on violence. There's no question about it. You know, the people that conquered this nation literally conquered the First Nation that was here, and in order to create something more, you know, to their liking. I mean, this was a genocidal a bunch of people that first settled this land. But
and we're the only country built on chattel slavery on the earth. Period.
So
it's like,
this is 100% proof positive that those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. And this is exactly why. This is exactly why the Republican Party is trying to shield a whole new generation from learning, from being able to understand that if you know your history, you can actually not repeat it. You can make progress.
But I also think, I think we also have to not say this is not who we are, because I think it just lends to this myth of us meeting some expectation that we've never met. And it's like, it's never been that way. Like, we exist in a situation where, for some people, they've always and continue to be in a fascist state. And you can be friends with them and not even have that reality. Like, we have to get to a place to be like, yo, we have never been the thing we said, let America be America again, Langston Hughes, right? Like, we've never been that. And
well,
so
the whole idea is that we, become more perfect. That is the idea of America. That is what, we hope we can achieve someday in this here country by practicing democracy and making it more accessible rather than less, right? So that's
I agree,
right?
But I'm saying,
so when you say
that wasn't the intent for you and I.
No, I understand.
It's not moral progress.
No, what you're saying is, when you hear that's not who we are, you want to say yes, it's exactly who we are, but it's who we were. We don't have to be that.
Today. Randy, listen, I left Milwaukee, right? Milwaukee's the worst city for black people. Racism has been declared a public health crisis by the county.
Yeah, I know. I live there.
For black people, right? Right, you were in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, and now I live somewhere where it's still racist, but I don't live with the same indignities. Just like my grandparents migrated out the South because it was so racist and violent, and went to Wisconsin, which is the worst state up north to be if you're black. Right, but it was still better than the level of violence they were dealing right there. So what I'm saying is, like, that's America. You get what I'm saying? So it's like,
because America is unequal. Because America literally
today, though.
I mean, when you look at where highways were built and how they divided, very successful and rich black cities, then you understand that it's repeating history. It's literally repeating history.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, we're on the same page. I'm just saying, like, it can be misleading for some, and I think that's easy to exploit, because then we get caught up in that in a moment where they know how fragile America is. White folks here are around race, and that's why it was easy to exploit and have all this uproar, because our emotional intelligence, particularly white folks, emotional intelligence around racism right, is low because that's a part of how they keep the control and steal.
And also, you know, there are people that feel horribly guilty about being part of that. And so you have that to overcome too. So, you know, listen, there's no question that white fragility around race is a real thing for various reasons. But most of it is
Russia
because
knew that. Putin knew that.
Well, everybody knows that. Everybody that wants to know that can know that. The problem is that the Republican Party doesn't want people to talk about it. They don't. That's why whenever we talk about,
but the Democrats don't either.
That's not true. Whenever you hear Democrats, you know, try to talk about race, the first thing they'll say is, first thing we have to do is have the conversation. That's the hardest part, is to even start the conversation, because the other side is telling you there's nothing to converse about. There's nothing to discuss.
But when we look at the politics, we look at Wisconsin and some of these states, right? Nobody wants to say, I support black people. Nobody wants to say, I support poor people. Like, that's a real thing. You know what I'm saying? And
but
so
I disagree with that.
Side, and they don't even listen to the folks. They should listen more to the folks who are saying this is how you can have a better ground game, instead of listening. You know what I'm saying? They're not listening to the black people they even have working for them.
Well, so now you're talking about the party and all their foibles and flaws.
That's what I meant.
Well, the party is definitely flawed in its messaging. There's no question the party has never been good salesmen. Never. They've never been able to. Right, and that the Republicans are much better snake oil salesmen. They can peddle just anything. They can peddle any conspiracy theory that you want peddled. You go find a Republican and he'll sell it.
Yeah, but the party needs some more Jane Elliott trainings too, so we can get, because the shit is on the line. You know what I mean? Like, we got to get it together. You know, everybody gets out and vote. You know?
I hear you. I mean, I feel you. I do. You're not wrong, except to say that we don't have to be that. Like when you say, this is who we are. No, we don't have to be that. We can say that's who we were. We don't have to keep repeating history. We just don't. But you're right. We need better salesmen. We need better conversations in this country. And there's fewer and fewer places to have them, let alone people to lead them in those conversations. No question.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
One of the things we always remind everybody is that by January, I would be much, much better, but Oz will still be a fraud. And, you know, and I rely on the judgment on real doctors, not a fake doctor like Dr. Oz that has spent his entire campaign ridiculing it and counting how many words that I might miss. And again, I acknowledge that, of course, any debate is going to be easy for somebody in recovery. And we wanted to be and thought it was important to be there, and we showed up. And getting knocked down, I always got back up. And to me, that's really at the essence of our campaign.
That's the essence of being a human being, a successful one, a decent one, a good one, somebody that's worthwhile, is to get knocked down, sure, but get back up. Get back up. And I want you to know that the Republican Party only cares about knocking you down. That's the only interest they have, is knocking you down. And when you get back up after they knock you down, they ridicule you. They ridicule you. They judge you. They diminish you. They sideline you. That's who they are. It's what they do. Robert in Naples.
Hey, Randy. I love you.
Thank you.
Anyway, yeah, and Howard, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And I owe him $20 still. One day I'll get it to him.
Oh, you do? What do you owe him money for?
I bet him that Mueller would be fired, and he said no, he's not going to fire him.
Oh, right.
Anyways, if you guys ever come over here, I'll buy you guys dinner. How's that?
Done.
Anyways, all right, good. We'll figure out a time and date, and we'll do it. The call about this Emmett Oz guy. He's got dual citizenship, I believe.
Yeah.
With Turkey.
He does.
Okay. I don't want somebody in Congress. I don't care if they're Italian or Israeli or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. You're an American. That's it. That basta. Nothing else. You know, you can't be half Canadian and American, because where's your loyalty? I don't know. I'm serious. I'm going to prove it. Here. He has no problems crapping all over Joe Biden and inflation, right? Erdogan's inflation is 83% in Turkey. Do you think he said word one about Erdogan and inflation?
You're right.
No, he won't. You know why? Because he won't exist if he did. You know? No, it's true. And whatever happened to that, there was some Turkish guy that lived in Pennsylvania. Remember that Michael Flynn wanted to grab him and send him back to Turkey? Whatever happened with that guy? Anybody know?
I don't know.
Oh. Homework for everybody.
Yeah, it's a blast from the past.
Hey, Randy, one last thing.
Yeah.
When you came back from Costa Rica about 6-7 years ago, and the show started kicking up again, and I think I was the first caller after Hillary conceded to Donald, and everyone was just shocked, right?
Yeah.
And I said it to you, and I said it tongue-in-cheek, but now I was more poetic, and you agreed. I said, we're at war, and we don't even know it yet. We don't know but now we know who the bad characters are.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
They have shown you who they are, and I ask everybody to believe them. Believe them, because they are showing you exactly who they are, and they are bad. They're bad for democracy. They're bad for this country. They're bad for ordinary Americans. They're bad for real Americans. They're bad for, hangers-on. They're bad. And anybody that follows them and thinks something good is going to happen for them, to them, with them, because, the fascists in government, the corporate, autocrats in government are someday going to pay their respects to you for making it all. Give me a break. I mean, you got these guys like Stuart Rhodes, who is going to put, he's literally facing 20 years in a federal prison, and he'll probably go there for a good long ass time. Donald Trump's not going to lift a finger for him. He's not going to do a jack thing for that man. That man is going to rot in a federal pen, period, end of story. And the guy that just got 7 years for attacking Michael Fetterman, that horrible person that literally said, I got one. Hey, Clem, I got me one, right? That guy just got 7 years, okay? And then another guy, an ex-New York police officer, he got 10 years. And another one last week or the week before that, he got 7.5 years. I mean, these people are getting real time, real serious time, and you don't hear a peep, not a word, right? Just Donald Trump saying, oh, they're treating them like, political prisoners. Yeah, that's talk. That's what that is. That's talk. He could have pardoned every single person. He could have pardoned anybody before he left. Who did he pardon? Roger Stone and Steve Bannon. That's who he pardoned. You know why? Because they're connected. You're not. Bob in Nevada.
Yes, Randy.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe that the Democrats realize that this is a war. The election we're having right now is so suppressed and attacked right here in Nevada and California. But I think if they do win the election, I think the Republicans are going to just suppress everything and create process. And with the judge system, I don't think this will ever end. And I think
so there's no question. They've already filed, just so you know, so everybody can get their brains wrapped around what's about to happen to us. They already filed 100 lawsuits, okay? 100 lawsuits. In Nevada, is it Nevada or is it Arizona? I think it's
Nevada.
I'm not sure.
Nevada.
The hand count, is that your state?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's chaos. But
total
the comment
freaking chaos.
I am 90 years old.
Oh my God. You sound great.
My wife lived in German-occupied France. This is serious. People should be so scared, frightened, because what happened I've seen already. So I would make a comment is that people should be able to fight back right now. They should not be timid. They should not rely upon the courts. They should be fighting back. The war has already started, whether they realize it or not, and they will not like it if the other side wins.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Comment.
No,
that's my comment, and anybody who wants to respond, fine.
Yeah, no,
anyway,
I think that it's a good one. It's taken to heart. I'm telling you, I woke up at 5 a.m, just like one of those, because it's making me crazy knowing what's coming. And I know what's coming. I'm trying to tell you what's coming, but Bob over there, he understands what's coming. They're going to challenge every single solitary person that they can. And then after the fact, if the Democrats prevail and they hold the House and the Senate, They're going to take this to court. And they're going to agitate and make people think that elections were stolen again in the middle of the night, because that's why he's telling his people to vote on election day, so that there's a big dump of, election day counting that's going to favor Republican, crazy people. And then they'll start to count the mail-ins, and then they'll start to count the earlies, and then they'll start to count, the rest. And it will flip. And they are going to latch on to the flip, and they're going to do exactly what they did in 2020. And we've got some crap coming our way. Not just the court stuff, not just the legal stuff, not just the the contesting. But I'm talking about coup stuff. There's going to be violence. There's no question. The only thing I would tell you is don't be part of it. Don't be part of it, because if you're part of it, no one's going to come and save you on the other side of it. You're going to go to jail. That's what happens in this country even now. So be warned. Carrie in Utah.
Yes, I was calling about, you mentioned the oil company is $15 billion profit for the quarter. I went on Google and did some research how much it costs to build a refinery. It costs $15 billion to build a refinery.
But we have refineries. We have refineries all over this country.
But we don't use them. And
yes, we do. Yes, we do. And refineries had profit taking. But
why are we? If we are using them? Why are we exporting oil?
No.
Why are we exporting? Why don't we take care of ourselves like Venezuela did a while back?
It's a global commodity. I mean, if you could tell me where your gallon of gas came from, I'll give you $1 million.
I have no idea.
Right, nobody does.
The point is I have to pay it.
Don't feel bad. Nobody knows where their gallon of gas came from, because it's a mix of everything, okay? But, oil production in this country, it's record. It's at record, highs. We're drilling our brains out. We're refining our brains out. We're doing fine on production. Absolutely fine. They're still gouging you. That's what's going on. But we have refineries all over this country. We have refineries in Arizona. We have refineries in Alabama, refineries in Texas, obviously, refineries in Delaware. We have refineries in Kentucky. We have refineries in California. There's refineries all over this country. Anything that, you hear on right-wing media with regard to the price being something other than gouging is not true. That's what it is. It's pure, unadulterated profit taken. And then what do they do with the profits? Buy back their own stock. Yeah, it's quite a racket they got going on there. But oil and gas the price is set on a global marketplace, okay? And it's like 5 people deciding, everything. Yeah. Happy Halloween.